from within the entire community to come and join us. Today we're so fortunate to have Randi Mannsåker here, who her daily job is to work for the Chamber of Commerce in the in what's called the expat center, the in center there. That's her job. But it's also her passion, her interest, and the thing that warms her heart to be a connector, to meet people from many different nationalities who've landed here in the Stavanger area, the greater Stavanger area, and see what she can do to help them enjoy each and every day that they're here. Some of it is practical, some of it's logistical, and some of it is just fun, interesting. So it's our real pleasure to have her here. I'm just going to say a couple things so that you don't think that I'm sort of, Catherine and I are kind of juggling today. She's here now. She's leaving in a few minutes because she's going off to Antwerp with our basketball team as one of our coaches. So you won't see Catherine at the end, but it's not because she's not interested. I'm here at the beginning. There's a meeting taking place downstairs that I have to be at, and I haven't quite figured out how to clone myself yet. So I'll be in and out. I'm here at the beginning, and I'll be here at the wrap-up. But in the meantime, you are all in for a real treat to hear some of these Randi has to share with you.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Thank you. So as Linda was saying, I work for IN, which is the International Network of Norway. Some of you I've met before and know well. Some of you I don't think I've met at all, so I'm pleased to meet you for the first time. You're here today for the job training seminar. And first of all, I'd just like to find out who of you are actively looking for work at the moment. Because I know some of you have been to our job training sessions also that we've provided through IN. What we're going to do today is a little bit of a mix of two things. I'm going to give you some information, market update, and then we're going to actually make a little action plan. Because in order to get to your goal of finding work, you need to have a specific plan to go with it. Because jobs don't just come knocking on your door, as some of you know by now. I've put up a website. This is NAV. NAV, N-A-V, is the Norwegian Labour and Welfare Office. So they are the ones who help people find work also. And the site that I've got up there at the moment is where you will see the vacancies in Rogaland at the moment that they have on their site. Any nurses here?
How you doing?
You're a nurse? Fantastic! We can find you work straight away. Those of you who are health professionals, it's quite easy to find work. But you must have your papers authorised in the Norwegian system. Have you started that process, the authorisation of your documents? No. Who's been here for longer than a year? Who's been looking for work for longer than a year? So doing more of what's not working isn't going to work, right? So we need to change what you're doing. So nurses need to get your papers authorised, easy to find work for nurses, you see? 255 vacant positions. Health professionals. Any other health professionals in the room? 259 jobs.
Not for my
Not for your
No. I'm a physiotherapist.
Okay. But have you had your papers authorised?
I'm Norwegian.
You are Norwegian?
I'm Norwegian.
Okay, fantastic. Which brings me on to Norwegian. Who's at that level? Väldigt bra. Yeah. Do dance. Okay. Leg yolks. A little bit of cheating for the Danish. It's easier. You've heard it time and time and time again. The language is the key. The language, we can't emphasize it enough. Speaking Norwegian makes all the difference. So many more doors will open for you. Within the last year, we see that speaking Norwegian has become even more important. You're now not just competing with each other for jobs, you're also competing with Norwegians. A lot of Norwegians have also lost jobs in the last 6 months. So the market is much tougher for you. You see, even for someone who speaks Norwegian, it's a tough market out there. For a Norwegian looking for work, generally it takes up to 6 months to change or find a new job. Therefore, for you, realistically thinking, it's going to take longer. So you need to give yourself a realistic time scale. In order to avoid frustration, you need to give yourselves a realistic time scale in finding that job. What do you think is a realistic time scale for a non-Norwegian? At least 1 year. How many of you are impatient and have not got that year? So, change of mindset. Because it's important to have the realistic targets, realistic expectations to find work. You see, for kindergartens, SFO, which is skolefritidsordning, which is where the children in the lower grades in Norwegian school go after their lessons. They then can go there for a few hours, where they have assistants. 72 positions advertised, 665 people applying. How important is then the Norwegian? Because a lot of these applicants, these 665, actually shouldn't be applying for these jobs because they don't have the necessary skills or language skills. So it is important to be realistic. This time last year, the unemployment rate in Stavanger was 1.7%. It's now gone up to 2.2, and we're expecting it to go up to 2.6. 2.6 by the end of 2015. It's still nothing. Right? If I tell someone from Italy or Spain, oh, we're in a crisis at the moment, the unemployment rate's 2.2 and it's going up to 2.6, laughing. The unemployment rate in Spain between 18 and 25-year-olds is something like 38-40%. So 2.2 is still low. So it's important to also remember that when the newspapers and everyone's talking about, oh, you know, there's a crisis in the market and unemployment rates going up, it's still low. And that's important to remember. What I want to do is actually, because we've got about an hour or so and I want to have time for questions afterwards, things like that. But it is important, as I said, to have an action plan. So I want to make a little action plan with you. How many of you are on LinkedIn? Wow. All of you should be here. LinkedIn is so important in Norway. 50% of jobs here are never advertised. Never. You'll never see them on NAR or on print. 50% of jobs are through Network and LinkedIn. A lot of jobs are advertised on LinkedIn, and a lot of recruiters find you on LinkedIn. So having an updated LinkedIn profile is just super, super important here. There's another LinkedIn group called Nettverk Stavanger. You should be joining them. They have 4 meetings a year where there's about 350 people just going to network. I know so many people who have found jobs through these networking events. Nettverk Stavanger. Blank piece of paper? I'll just write it down.
Yes. And also, I can email the links out afterwards too. So,
Yeah.
any links or resources that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nettverk Stavanger. Because I think 5 of you, I think I counted 5 arms up when I said who's got LinkedIn. That means you've got a huge potential there. Because it's all about putting yourself out there, being proactive. How many of you have contacted companies directly? 3. You need to be proactive. How many of you have offered to work as a volunteer to start with, just to get your foot in the door? 2, 3. Internship, where you offer to work for a few months so they can see what you're able to do. Because Norwegian companies, once they employ you, very difficult to get rid of you again. Right? So therefore, a lot of companies will actually take you in as an intern, try you out, and from there you have a foot in the door and you can show what you can do. But you have to be proactive yourselves. So important. How many of you actively use your network? Because you've got a huge network here at school. Look at all the companies you guys represent. That's a huge network. How many of you have actively contacted colleagues of spouses or the HR in the company where your spouse is working or other people are working? It's being proactive. In front of you, you've got a piece of paper with 2 sides, and this is the career wheel and the wheel of life. So we're now going to do a little group coaching session. Because a lot of you have been to job trainings with me through IN, where we've had other presenters coming in, but we haven't sat you down and actually made an action plan. That's what you need. You need an action plan. On the one side, you can put on the top, life wheel. Write that down, life wheel. And you've got 8 segments there. where we're going to put a few words. And one of them you're going to put career. Job, career. Relationship. And another. Then we're going to put family. Then we're going to put personal development. We're going to put hobbies / social life. We're going to put confidence. Finance. And lastly, health. Okay? Health, your health. You'll see there's little lines there from 1 to 10. Okay? So what I want you to do is now rate yourself where 10 is where you want to be, but where you are at the moment. Thank you. So if you're semi-satisfied, you can put yourself at a 5. If you're super happy, you are where you need to be, it's a 10. So you put where you are now.
Does anyone else need a piece of paper?
Does everyone understand? Yeah? And please let me know if I speak too quickly. I know I do tend to ramble away very quickly. So let me know if I need to repeat something. So I'm guessing for most of you now, the career one is quite low, right? So therefore, we're going to turn the page and do the career wheel, where we are putting in the segments in one, CV, skills in another one, development, support, and the next one, support, values, market, confidence, and interests. And I want you to do the same here. I want you to mark them from 1 to 10. So if you think your CV is absolutely spot on, it's a 10. All right? done that on the two wheels, I want you to draw a line between the points that you have. So from 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 10 to 9, right? So draw a line between them. Support from significant other, support from family, because of course you might want to work, but are you getting the support that you need from the people close to you in order to achieve your goal? Because if you're wanting to work, but your spouse isn't supportive, it's not easy, is it? Oh my God, you're going to start to work, but then I'll have to start taking time off with sick children. It's so easy now because you do everything. That is what we're talking about, the support from significant other. Some of you might end up with a star here or something similar. If you think about a bicycle wheel, because what you have in front of you is a wheel, and if you think of a bicycle wheel, to have a nice bike ride, you need the wheels full of air. They need to be fully inflated, yes? So that's when your graph is round, your wheel is round. It's all 10. That's where we want to be. This is continual process of having it up to 10. But where you are now, is it full of air? Probably not. So that means you're having quite a bumpy ride. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to bring all the segments up to 10. So if you look at the first one, the life wheel, what's going to impact on your life the most is actually looking at the part where you scored the least. And that might not necessarily be on career. Because if you think about, if that part of your wheel lifts, if that segment lifts up to a 10, will that have a huge impact on the other parts without you doing too much? Because you need to look at where you score the least. On that particular one where you scored least, let's pretend it's career because it's career we're talking about today. But just for you, you know that actually that's the one that you need to be working on. But let's say it's career. You need to define what is a 10 and write it down on the side where you've got the career wheel. What is a 10 for you? What's a 10? What's the goal? Specifically, I don't want you to have written here any kind of job. I want to do anything. Anything is very wide. Anything is not easy to work with. So I want you to be specific in what your 10 is. What's your goal? What's your 10? Underneath there, I want you to put 3 things that by achieving this goal, what will that give you? So by getting your 10, what's that going to give you personally? 3 things. How's that going to make you feel by achieving that? of those three things, I want you just to put a little tick beside the one that actually is the most important. Because ultimately, that is the ultimate goal, is the thing you've just put the tick beside. Because the job will do something for you. Right? Okay, so now we're going to do, make an action plan. Does this make sense? Before we carry on, does this make sense to you? So we have a specific goal. Now we need to find a space. Actually, let me see if she's got some more paper. Do you have some? Yeah, because you're now going to write yourself a detailed action plan. I need some more.
Okay, there's some here.
There you go. So at the top of that blank piece of paper, I now want you to put your specific goal at the heading at the top. Your 10. What is your goal? And beside it, I want you to put a date. Because if we're working towards something, we actually need a date to work towards. Because otherwise, it's just a dream. It's just something we talk about. So you need to make it specific and give yourself a realistic date to work towards. Because that way you give yourself the time that's needed. How will you know that this issue's been resolved? What will you see? Just write it down below the goal. What will you see? How will you know you've achieved it? What are people around you seeing? What do your significant others see? So by you achieving your goal, what will your family, what will your spouse see? What will they experience? What are you doing? What can you see yourself doing? Write it down in a positive sentence. What do you see yourself doing?
mean doing to achieve the goal now?
Yeah, do you see yourself getting up every morning, having a shower, you're in a rush because you know you've got to be at work by 8 o'clock and it's now 7:10? You see yourself putting makeup on, getting dressed every day. What do you see yourself doing, having achieved your goal? Before we carry on, I just want you to look at your goal and just reflect, is this your goal? Are you doing this for yourself? Or are you doing it for other people? Because if it's not your goal, you can just stop right now. If you're doing this for other people, it's not going to work so well. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Check the date again, that date that you've put beside it. From what we've talked about, the market, the length of time it takes to find work, the date that you've got beside it, is it realistic? Does what you've written excite you? Are you feeling very enthusiastic about your goal? Because if you're not, boost it. Because your goal has to feel important and exciting to you. It's like, oh yeah. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. You need to be excited by what you're going to do. So if it's not very exciting for you, boost it. Is this within your influence of achieving your goal? Because you need to do things that are within your influence. We only have influence over what we ourselves can do. So do you have influence with your goal? So you should be very clear now on what your goal is, and you should be excited by it, and it should have a realistic time scale put to it. So now we've got the goal clear. Now we're going to look at actually what's happening today. What is reality? Because this is why we're sitting here, right? Because reality. So what is happening today to make you aware that this is an issue for you? What's going on now to make you realise that this is an issue? Could be, I've been looking for work for a year, nothing's happened. So what makes it an issue? Being in this situation, what's that doing to you and people around you? How's it impacting on your life? How's it impacting on your relationship? Oh my God, you're so lucky, you go to work every day, here I sit, I have nothing to do, I have to make effort to get out of the house, I can't stay in this country, I can't learn the language, it's too difficult, on top of it, the weather's horrible, I want to go home. What's missing? What is missing here? What's missing? Be precise. The things that you are missing. Now, if you look at the career wheel, one of these segments will have the dip. There'll be maybe one or two that are lower than the others. Then that's the missing bit. What do you need to do to raise that? What's the lowest one on your wheel? What's good at the moment? What's good about what is happening at the moment which actually contributes to your goal? So what's good about now? What are you doing right at the moment? What good habits are you doing at the moment in order to achieve your goal? Think about the things that you've done that don't work. How can you change that? Because doing more of what is not working won't work. So doing more of the same, waste of time. You're doing more of the same of the things that aren't working. So what can you do differently? For the things that have been successful, what have you done? What exactly did you do? When did you do these things? How did you do these things? What made these things work? For the things that didn't work, what exactly went wrong? What was going on around you when things went wrong? If you think about the things that have made a difference and that made you feel success, what were they? What were the differences? What do you think is most crucial to your success? let's look at obstacles. What is stopping you now from achieving your success? What obstacles are there? Have you dealt with obstacles before successfully? Now, looking at this obstacle, how specifically is it getting in the way? And move away from generalizations. I don't have time because, I have to take the children to school, and then, I have things I have to do at home, and so these obstacles, these generalizations, move away from them and specifically look at how it gets in the way. What needs to happen now for you to tackle this obstacle? How are you going to get over this barrier? Have you dealt with this kind of issue before? What did you do? How were you successful? What strengths have you got? What are your strengths? And how can you use your strengths in this situation? Your strength might be, I'm really stubborn. I just don't give up. My strength might be, I'm positive regardless. I'm going to be positive. So what's your strength? What are your strengths? And how are you going to use your strengths now? Before I carry on, your motivation when looking at your goal is excitement. If you think about numbers from 1 to 10, write down how motivated you are at the moment. From 1 to 10. For you to achieve your goal, the number you've just written needs to be 7 or above. If it's below 7, this just isn't important enough. Your motivation isn't where it needs to be. So then you need to look at what's going to bring it up to at least a 7. Because depending on how important this is what makes the difference. So it needs to be 7 or above. So what needs to happen for it to go up to a 7? If it's not there already. So now we're going to look at options. What could you do? What could you do to achieve your goal? Not what you will do, but what could you do? Give yourself options. This is brainstorming. Giving yourself lots of options. What could you do? If you weren't scared of anything, what could you do? If you didn't think about consequences, what could you do? If you totally believed in your abilities, your self-confidence was at a 10, you had full belief in yourself, what could you do? So give yourself options. Look at the list of options. What have you missed? What's not there? Thinking about things you've done in the past that have been successful. Should they be on the list? You've looked for work before, probably. What did you do? What was successful? To achieve your goal, because it has a long time frame, realistically, it's a year. Give yourself a year. But to reach that, it's not one giant leap, it's part leaps. So what's the first thing? Set yourself a part goal. What's the first thing you want to achieve that tells you that you're on your way? B2, Balligan's test, whatever it might be. What's the first thing, your part goal? And have a date with that as well. Now when you look at your options, will they move you forward? So look at the options you've written down. If the answer is yes, they will propel me forward towards my goal, then keep them. Stay with them. So now we need to get down to actions and being specific. What do you need to do specifically with these options to propel you forward? This is the way forward we're talking about. What do you need to do now to implement these things in order to ensure success? What are you specifically going to do? The tiny steps that need to happen. What could stop you from starting this process? What could stop you? Is it your own self-talk? Is it your own negative self-talk that could stop you? Then you need to change it to positive self-talk. I can't do this. This is too hard, too difficult learning Norwegian. It's just too much. It's just such a long process. We're only going to be here for 2 to 3 years. Can I be bothered? You need to change that to positive self-talk. Because there is a reason that you're here for the job training. There's a reason some of you have spent a year looking for work. Who else could help you? Who else should be involved? What support do you need? What would be the benefits of starting these tiny actions now? Who else would benefit from you starting this process now? Who else would benefit? And how will you feel when you start this process? How are you going to feel? And how committed are you? Go back to motivation. How committed are you? From 1 to 10. In front of you now, you should have a plan. Steps, tiny steps to take you forward to your ultimate goal. The path goals. But your motivation, your intention to commitment has to be a 7 or above. Because if it's not a 7 or above, it just isn't important enough. And if it's not important enough, why spend the time being frustrated about it? Why waste time frustrating about not getting a job when you could be spending time doing other things? Right? So it has to be a 7 or above. Does anyone want to share? Does anyone want to share what they've got out of the session? Whether they have a action plan to go forward with? If not, that's fine. But hopefully now you should have an action plan, or you should realise that this just isn't important. Because every day we should have the best day that we can, and we should be doing the things that mean something to us and fulfill us, and we shouldn't be frustrated about things that actually turn out that they're maybe not so important. Because as I say, the goal has to be your goal. You have to do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. It has to be important enough for you.